Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crafty Distilling Conference and our session on spirits competitions, the who, what, why, where, and how. Spirits competitions, big part of any spirits brand, any distillery, but there's so many questions about it. So we have a brilliant expert panel today to help answer some of those questions, and we'll let them introduce themselves. Now, Bernadette, would you like to start?
Hi, my name is Bernadette Pamplin. I'm a spirits writer and judge. My blog is Under the Influence. I've been doing that for 5 years. I've judged for a number of international awards, and I also write for publications like Gin Magazine and Distiller Magazine.
And what specific competitions do you judge for, Bernie?
Okay, so we've got World Gin Awards, IWSC, ABI Judging of Craft Spirits, Spirits Masters. I feel like I'm on a game show now. There's another one I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, a good selection anyway. Rum of the year, gin of the year. Yeah.
Oh, gin of the year. Yes, gin of the year.
Thank you, Veronica.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Veronica Karlova, and I'm on the vodka side of the business. So I am currently chair judge for World Vodka Awards, as well as I've been judging for many years for IWC, as well as International Spirits Challenge, Vodka Master, and so on. And I currently work for Beluga Vodka as their brand ambassador.
Thank you very much. Jon?
Yes, hello, my name is Jon Hillgren. I'm the founder and master distiller of the Swedish gin distillery called Hernö. This year is our 10th anniversary. We've been doing gin for 10 years now.
Excellent. And a gin Hall of Famer.
Yes, proud moment for sure.
Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Zandona. I'm the Director of Spirits Information for the American Distilling Institute, which means I run our annual competition, the Judging of Craft Spirits. And I also serve as a judge for a number of competitions, including Whiskeys of the World, IWSC, and some others. And then to write about spirits.
And last but not least, Toby.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Good evening. So I'm Tobias Gorn. I tend to judge at a handful of little competitions worldwide. I think I made it 5 continents, actually, almost, if it wasn't cancelled. Anyways, I also help some brands with consultancy, actually, what competitions to enter. So it's a fairly new project, and some of you might be even helping us with that. So that's why we thought it's a good idea to actually talk about this and help people to understand what competitions are. I tend to write sometimes and do other stuff in the drink industry.
Thank you very much. And I'm David T. Smith. I'm a spirits writer, consultant, and judge for a number of competitions. I'm on the Spirits Judging Committee for the IWSC, and I'm also the chair judge for the World Gin Awards, and also look after the RTDs and the Vermouth, and possibly something else which I've forgotten. But but I'm always interested in. I mean, gin's always a big thing, but anything that's unusual, I'm always so fascinated to judge. So let's crack on with our first question. This is always a really key question. I know so many distillers want to know the answer to. What makes a spirit worthy of a top award? What are the judges looking for? Veronica, do you want to kick us off, please?
I don't mind starting on this one. That's actually a very good question. So I think, David, we have to mention first that there are different approaches as well, because obviously few competition are not just about the taste, entering the taste kind of side of the business, but also the design. So we should maybe talk about this a little bit, but from the taste point of view, obviously, if you entering the product in the category, it needs to fit the category in the first place. And then we obviously talking about something that product delivers, that it stands out. So from my experience, if we're talking about pure neutral category within the vodka category, we're looking for the product that will deliver what it says and it fits the category. So I'm sure you all agree that that is the most important thing for the product to, to enter and to stand out.
Toby, you've got anything to add to that?
Oh, yes, actually, and Veronica was so right on the kind of, it has to be outstanding and has to be special. But on the other hand, if it kind of, we'll talk about this later, if it fits into the category, but it should be, because regardless how open-minded we are and how lovely these spirits could be, it's going to be sitting on a shelf and someone will need to kind of buy it to consume it. And there's going to be a customer expectation. So it would be also nice if that expectation would get satisfied to a certain level. And I reckon with if you go into the sensory side, complexity, intensity, length, and also balance, you know, between sweet and the warmth of alcohol, savory spices, that sort of stuff is in general just you know, just pick one spirit, a spirit. But I think it's quite important when we actually putting spirits next to each other to see what they for and if they can satisfy that actual purpose that they meant to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think one of the other things that you often tend to find with a really top spirit, you often know as soon as you try it, and then once you've tasted it, you feel yourself being drawn back to having that second sip. And then the real test is if you've kept that little glass by, so when the judging's all finished, you can enjoy it and just sip on it subsequently. I know Jon has done very well with a lot of his gins, and you know, subsequently when you find out what these things are and having tasted them, and that, I mean, that is one of the things I think that Jon's products do definitely have. Certainly things like that Old Tom with that real burst of the citrus, sort of the juniper, but then also that lovely sweetness. It's something that you come back to, and I think that's great. And then things like the juniper cask, in that respect, there's that different approach to it. And so I think sometimes there's typicacity, but there's also innovation. I think it's largely about getting excited. I think if the spirit gets the judges excited, then that is usually you're on the right course. Okay.
If I can add, David, just very quickly, yeah. I would probably add also, it really depends on your judging panel as well, because I like to see the judging panel that is that consists of, you know, buyers, also bartenders or bar managers, then spirits writers, brand ambassadors, so the whole spectrum, because they look at the product from a different point of view. You know, bar managers would say, does this one actually work with a martini or with different cocktail, or, you know, does this one deliver from buyer's point of view, deliver from my customers and consumer point of view, you know. So I think there is different perspectives from different kind of, you know, people.
And well, I'll bring Eric in here, because I know that that's something that you believe very strongly for the ADI competition, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for us, you know, and I know for other competitions as well, I feel it's very valuable to have the judging panels made up of people who have different experiences within the industry, because they can bring that experience to the evaluation process. You know, distillers will bring a particular lens, writers will bring a different lens, people who are on the bar side or on the retail side will also bring a different perspective. And I think each of those have something valuable to say in the process of evaluation. And I agree generally, if you can make that group of people excited about your product through its aroma and flavor, then they're gonna score it highly, and they're gonna push it through to the trophy round. And you know, things like typicacity and things like that, but you got to have that something extra to really kind of get through to the next level.
Excellent, thank you. So that kind of, we talked about different approaches that different people, depending on their backgrounds, might approach these flavors and spirits with. So that brings into the question of subjectivity, the personal preference, versus objectivity, trying to have an open mind. How important is that? And Bernie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. Whenever I taste a spirit, you know, you have to remember that they've loved and made that, and it's very important to them, and they've entered it expecting a fair evaluation. So, you know, like personally, I struggle a bit with grape bases, but you can't let that put you off. You have to look at what it's trying to do, and all of, like we've said so far, sort of the tick boxes. You know, is it right in its concept? Is it in the right category? Is it made well? And you kind of have to see past your personal preference and look at what the spirit's doing, what it's meant to be doing, and judge it like that. And I think it's very important to do that, to give a fair judgment to the spirit, which is what it deserves.
I think from a judging point of view, it's very important to be aware, like you are, about with the grape based spirits, the things that you don't like. Certainly if I'm tasting a gin or something and it's got, and I might be a slightly lower score on it, and then I taste some clove, I go, oh, hold on a second, because again, I know I struggle a little bit with clove, so I have to approach and make sure, am I scoring it fairly? I know Veronica is a huge fan of dill.
I was going to actually mention that. So, you know, I don't really like dill, but we had a couple of competitions, judging competition, where the dill was the trophy winner. So, and it's not about the flavor, it's not about, you know, it's about the whole product overall. And if the base spirit is a good quality, then it shouldn't stop an experienced judge from, you know, scoring it high, or like, let's say the other way, low, because the judge doesn't like dill. I particularly don't really like chili flavored vodkas because I don't like chili, but it doesn't stop me from tasting them and actually, you know, evaluating how good is the base spirit and how good is the actual flavoring, whether it's natural, whether it taste is, you know, natural or it's artificial, and, you know, whether it, you know, the taste is like evolved within the spirit. So, you know, I think we need to be impartial, because that's what it is.
Okay, well, let's move on to what can an entrant expect from a spirits competition? I'm going to put him on the spot here, but Jon, as someone that's entered a lot of spirits competitions, what is it that you expect from a spirits competition when you're paying your money and you're entering it?
Well, of course, it's one of the things is something you mentioned earlier, the objectivity of the judges. Of course, we want, and since we participate in what is it, 5, 6, 7 competitions worldwide, it's fun to grade. It is good to get a different kind of jury, to get different kind of assessments, and to get experts to well, review your product or put points on your product, which is what it's all about. And we'll get to something else when it comes to marketing later on, but the thing is to get a evaluation or a review of your products.
And so and sometimes that can be whether you win an award or a medal or something, and then sometimes that can be a more tangible feedback. Those competitions that do, and actually more competitions seem to be offering written feedback. As a producer, how useful is that to you?
Well, getting that is very valuable, and of course, some of the products we participate they are a standard range, so we won't twist the products for any competitions. They will keep being the same product, but it's valuable for us on how they are received and how we might communicate that product in a certain country, for instance, or well, communication is important.
Excellent, thank you very much. Eric, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, in terms of what producers can expect to receive, we try to provide them a variety of feedback, both, you know, written on the quality of of the product that the judges are seeing, and then for those who win, you know, an award that they can then use in their marketing. And then we also try to, you know, provide other opportunities for our trophy winners and gold medal winners to help push awareness of their products. Since our competition focuses primarily on small producers, that we feel that's a valuable tool for us to offer those entrants and winners. So that's, I mean, so it depends on your competition. Some will focus more on the score and bottle stickers. Some will focus more heavily on feedback. And so it is the responsibility of the entrant in part to kind of understand what each individual competition is offering and what they can make out of it. But I think Jon's point is a good one in terms of you may not necessarily decide to reformulate based on a score or given feedback, but it can also be a helpful tool to get a sense of what experts in a particular region or market is thinking, you know, how they receive your product.
Yeah, the international thing, different markets. I hadn't really considered that before, but that's a really great point. Toby, you have worked with lots of different competitions. You advise people as to what would be good competitions to enter. What is reasonable for a someone that's entering their spirit to expect from a competition? What's not reasonable?
This is actually, Eric said it very wisely, that not every competition will deliver everything. So there's people who have worked for competition, and very nice and very funny examples actually, that they wanted the competition to market their product, and they wanted lots of exciting but slightly maybe over the top happening. Also, people would ask like, oh, let's have a feedback. And the ADI is actually absolutely brilliant, and that small craft spirit, and it's brilliant. But I don't think that when you enter the competition, and it would be, let's say, £200-300 or dollars or equivalent, then it's the equivalent of getting a production specialist, a group in, and telling you exactly how to turn your still up, or to filter more, or to put more juniper in. I think that's a level higher as in consultancy. But on the other hand, people just need to have a look and see what they want from the competition. There's plenty of people who are absolutely magnificent distillers, and they know that their new product will probably get a gold medal or equivalent, and they just want to stamp that saying that, yep, very nice, there you go, lovely, 90 odd points or a gold medal, or you name it, and they won, and it's really good for the marketing. Other people, small, usually distillers who either have new products in, or they're not necessarily distillers for a very, very, very long time, or just a new distillery, they basically use a taste test. So will they win an award? Is it good enough for a silver, a gold, or God knows 90 odd points, or little stars, God knows what? And they use it for benchmarking. And also I think we've done a big document about 15 or 20 different things that actually not just what to expect from a competition, but how to use it. Because people would think that I won a big double gold or platinum or something like that, and I'm sorted for life. But I always tell people that that's just the first step. The same with sports, and winning the Olympics is just the first step. That's when you get your better manager in, and that's when you get the PR and get everything sorted, and you build your own brand from there to get the next step. I think that's people expect that I won the spirit competition, and then I'm godlike in the industry. I won and I'm the best. And like, no, unfortunately, there's plenty. That's where the work starts. I think the real work starts, how to use that competition winning. And also, as Eric said, there's a handful of competitions that are really, really good value, because they help you to do introductions to stockists. And that's basically, some people pay serious money for their own, local team to have a marketing manager. And if you get that for that entry, even the ADI as American competitions, it's slightly a tiny bit more than European ones. But if you have an intro in the US and you get a new stockist out of it, that's nothing compared to flying in your team or hiring someone full time. So that's brilliant, but that's not expected. That's almost like a little bonus. That's
best case scenario kind of thing. Sure.
That's really good. Yeah.
So categories, you got to get your product in the right category to make sure it's judged properly, but it's not that easy. Veronica, I know you've just judged the World Vodka Awards, and categories are a very interesting thing there. We've done a talk that people can see where we were talking about the difference between flavored vodka and botanical vodka and all these interesting things, which are still a work in progress. How do you decide what category to put your spirit into? And does it matter if your spirit is non-typical?
So let's answer the first question first. So absolutely. So especially with category, especially with white spirits, with category like vodka, where there's very little differences within each samples. I'm going to use an example of World Vodka Awards, because we only have 3 categories, which is varietal, pure, neutral, and flavored. So this year specifically, we had a problem with within the flavor category, that the samples that entered, they were flavored, but from a judge's perspective, when they expect flavor vodka, they expect a lot of flavors, a lot of sweetness, and you know, the category evolved. So with the craft movement, there is a lot of infused and botanical vodkas, which I think, and we all agree probably, that should be a specific category, but it wasn't defined. So we decided to create a new category, which is botanical and infused vodka, just to make sure that, you know, because it's very important for, you know, for the producers to get valuable feedback, as we already said. And I don't think for botanical and infused vodka, within the flavored category, they would get the feedback or even the markings that they would expect. So, and the same thing, we had few problems within, you know, pure neutral category or varietal category, where some products entered within pure category, but the judging panel agreed that they would score much better within the varietal category. So then what we normally do, we, you know, consult the producer or the entrance and give them our feedback, saying we think your product would score better in the different category. And that's why you have not just you know, the organizers of the competition, but also the judges that taste the products prior to you know, tastings, and they suggest, because we always get samples that we think they don't fit the category. So that's where we come in, our expertise, to say, you know, I think, and it's all thinking that, you know, we want the best for the product, because it could be an amazing product. We had that, you know, thing that it was an amazing product, but it wasn't neutral. So when we moved it to varietal category, it scored a gold medal. So that is.
And I think most competitions these days, maybe not all, but at least a good amount of them, have some element of discretion, so that if the judges really feel like it would do better in a different category, that tends to be they're open to it. I mean, it's giving a spirit as fair a shake as possible. Now, I know, Eric, with the competition that you run, it's even more detailed than that. So, I mean, maybe you can speak a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've taken the approach where we have sort of broader categories, which we think, you know, broadly reflect industry practice and consumer awareness. So let's take, for example, bourbon, right? When somebody's going to a liquor store, to a bar, and they're asking for a bourbon, they're not, you know, in general, I would say they're not thinking specifically, well, I want a bourbon that's between 2 and 5 years old and is made with this mixture of grains, right? They just think, I like bourbon, I want to have a glass, or I want a, you know, Manhattan or something with it. So in terms of our award category, our approach is to have broader categories that sort of represent that consumer-based knowledge and industry practice. But on the judging side, we get very granular on how we present the spirits to the judges, so that the things that go out together are as like things as possible. So we will isolate things based on how old they are, if they're an aged spirit, or say for like, you know, flavored vodkas or botanical or signature botanical gins. If there's a cohort that are all in the same wheelhouse, like, you know, they're all focusing on a very particular citrus profile or something like that, we will put those together and as a flight to go out to the judges, so that it's as similar as possible. We did this with rye whiskey, where we looked at, you know, these ones have malted rye in them and these ones don't. Malted rye has a really dramatic impact on the flavor. And so it made sense for us to isolate those out from other ryes, even though they fit the broader category, but for our judging panel, so that they're tasting things that are similar next to each other. Because we don't want them to go from one thing that has like a very sort of traditional rye spice character to something right next to it that has this huge like grassy note, which you find common in malted rye. And so for us, it made sense to get more granular on the flight level for the judges, but then keep our categories a little bit broader to reflect sort of what people in the community and bartenders and consumers sort of understand these things to be.
Well, thank you very much. And I guess well, the final word would just be, make sure you have a look at the website. Quite a few competitions have a vague idea of what the categories are, and if in doubt, ask. There's people on hand to respond to these questions, and sometimes they'll be responded directly, and sometimes they'll speak to the expert, as it were, for their competition to help clarify such things. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. Who cares the most about awards? Is it the consumer? Is it the bartender? Retailers? Distributors? Investors? Who cares? Jon, if you may start, please.
Well, first of all, as a producer, you are very proud if you get a medal to start with. But for us, it is important to well, of course, in the best of worlds, we'll get the consumers to know that we've been awarded in a competition. And talking about just Sweden, well, it's difficult to communicate awards in a country where it's prohibited to, well, market alcohol or spirits at least. But we actually hooked up with a few foreign markets or distributors in foreign markets because of the awards. Because if you have a portfolio of different spirits, you're looking for a new gin, well, you will scout the top lists of different competitions. And if you find, well, some brands sticking out in many of the competitions, you will get contacted and get an inquiry, well, basically. Then it's, of course, up to the distributor to taste the product, and they have to like it as well. End of the day, they need to like the product and they need to like the brand as well. But it's very important for distributors, I would say, yeah.
And so you talked about that you've had some great success off the back of some awards. Was that particular sort of medals a sort of a cumulative thing? I mean, you were very modest with your introduction because you didn't talk about how many. I know you're a very modest man, but a great number of trophies that you've been awarded from many different competitions for your gins. And for those that aren't aware, the trophy is the top prize for whatever that category is. And also, but like from a producer point of view, as like a gin producer, you've been awarded trophies as well. So were they interested in the really big prizes, or was it a cumulative kind of thing?
Yeah, the accumulated kind of thing. Yeah, well, since we got top medals in the top competitions all over, and not just once, but continuously, it shows that we're not a one-hit wonder. And apparently, since we started participating in competitions in 2013 with our first gin Grandmaster, and it's kept going very well for us. Well, you could say that a lot of these importers, for instance, they could see that, well, it's not a one-hit wonder. Our flavor profile, our brand is still interesting for at least the judges in the different kind of competitions all over. Yeah.
Yeah, good. That's very, very helpful. Anyone else have any thoughts on that one particularly?
I would just like to
Bernadette, yeah, please.
Yeah, I think that there's from the consumer side of things, I know before I got into spirits writing, if I was torn between two bottles in a shop, I would go for the one that won an award, because realistically, a group of people that know about these things have tried it and think it's good. So therefore it could be a wise investment of your money, and likewise, I think the way everything's developing and people are taking more of an interest in the spirits that they're drinking and sort of spirits writing, people are reading up on these things and they want to know more about how things are made in the process. And I think awards, they mean a lot more to the consumers than they used to, because I think people are starting to get a bit more of a handle on what goes into it, because a lot goes into it, and they're becoming more aware of this through spirits writing, I think.
I think you make a good point, and that's very much my approach. I don't know much about wine at all, but if I'm like looking at two things and thinking, all right, that's about the price I want to pay, what do I go for? Yeah, that helps to make that decision when it's on the shelf. Toby, I know you've got something to say about this.
I would just about, when I used to live in Brixton, and I started as a sommelier and wine judge. So I went to my local M&S, and there were two Garveys, not just one. And one was a bronze medal winner, which is okay. That means it's been tested and it's an okay. The other one was a non-medal winner. And I've gone with the bronze medal winner because I knew that, it's a company I work for as a judge. And I think that's going to be exactly as good. Not going to blow my socks off. But what's more important I wanted to say is quite blunt, but why not on a Tuesday afternoon, that if the competitions were totally useless and customers, consumers, bartenders didn't give too much about them, then they would disappear, because for that they are quite expensive just to chuck money at them. So I think there's a good use for them, and especially with more and more people looking at choosing quality instead of just choosing value, then it might be actually a good place there for competitions, and I think they're here to stay.
Thank you, Joe. We'll move on. Next question, which is for Jon, which is, do awards lead to increased sales? And I guess I'll expand on that very slightly, which would be, you've said about the distributors, but beyond that, if they do or if they don't, a broader question: why enter a competition? Why do you enter? You enter quite a few. Why do you enter these competitions?
Well, basically, when it started in the competition, it was to get it to get a good review, to get someone professional saying something, getting feedback on your product. That's how it actually started. Then when we got the first Gin Grandmaster, I thought, well, this was a top one. We'll never get anything similar to that one. We'll get at least that one. I'm very happy. But of course, it gives us increased sales. Yeah, we are also very modest when it comes to printing medals on the bottles. We have, I think, 3 on each or something like that. And they are not on the front side. We don't want the product to sell because of a medal. We want the product to sell because it's a good liquid inside. But to get the consumer to pick the bottle out of 200-300 gins on the shelf, it's difficult. You have to stand out. If we go back 10 years ago, it would be easier because there were fewer gins. In Sweden, there are like 12-15 gins on shelf. You might get a consumer to pick any gins anyway, but any other markets without a monopoly, you have to stand out. So medals are important on the bottle, yeah, and they help sales, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And then we make a good point about the medals on the bottle. That's one of the things that a distiller can do to make the most out of their award. Eric, what else is it that people can do? Because you get the award, and I mean, I must say, I've seen people that have won a trophy and done nothing with it, and I've seen some people do a bronze medal and have really worked it, and they've probably got more out of winning that bronze medal than a different company did getting a trophy. So what is it that distillers can do to really maximize the effectiveness of whatever award that they get?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to do when you earn an award is to talk about it and to spread the news that you've won something. I'm familiar with a couple of companies that have won trophies, and then they don't put it on their website. They don't talk about it. It's just like it disappeared into the ether. Okay, so maybe it's just the distiller wanted validation about their product, and that's all they cared about. It's possible, but if you want to make the most of the investment of money and product that you send to a competition, you got to talk about it. For small distillers, I think one of the best opportunities that you have is local press, local radio, local TV. Get those people talking about your product and sharing your story for you. I've known examples of a couple of distillers where they took their award and they went to their local newspaper and they say, hey, look what happened to us. And they decided to do a profile on them and shares the word. Now, it may only be in your local region, but if you're a small company, that's where your primary market's going to be anyway. So, you have to think about these things. So, and then as Jon said, putting the medal on the bottle, I think is a good idea, especially when it's on the shelf. Neck hangers and things like that. Some people like to use those. I know depending on where your retail markets are, some of those will allow those, some of them won't. So you have to think about that sort of expenditure. If you're going to go into, putting neck hangers on your bottle, will they even survive to the shelf? You don't want to spend all that money and then have them just taken off. So there are a number of ways to think about it, but you have to talk about them. You have to share that information with people who are interested. Otherwise, and you're right, like if you got a bronze medal and you get your local newspaper to do a profile on you and you increase your tasting room traffic, obviously in non-COVID times, by 20%, that's a win, right? And then for others, like if you're at the trophy level and you're able to get conversations or meetings with distributors, that's great, right? And that's a good benefit. But you got to talk about it. And I know I've seen lots of distillers who just don't do a lot with it. And I think the proliferation of spirits in the market means that just putting it on your website isn't enough anymore. You gotta be more proactive. And as Toby said, earning the medal is just the beginning.
Toby, you got a point.
We had, I don't know, I need to look it up actually. I will share it next time. I think it was 19 or maybe 21 points what you can do with the medal. And one of them were quite annoying. That's really, really tiny. In your signature, if you're the main distiller or the marketing manager, put it in the signature strip of your email. Some silly, obvious things like that to slightly more intricate. You can put it on your business card. You can put it on you can put it so many places. And not just that, but what Eric said, I really love it. Just go to the local newspaper and local little radio thing. And that will help to send people, I mean, obviously there's no global pandemics, to your tasting room and excellence sales. And that's bang on, because that will make you a total local hero. And this is when it comes, then if you only got a bronze, it's a long story. I'm not going to steal the night, I promise. But that means that guy might have only got a bronze, but in that tiny little bit of the county, there's only 2 of them, and you're the one with the bronze, so you're better than the other one. So you don't need to go against, you know, the top double gold, but it's good.
I agree. I mean, there's a distillery that I know, and I only heard of them because they were on the local radio, and they got a bronze. And there's a rum distillery. And I was like, I had no idea there was a rum distillery in this place. Fantastic. So that's one person, and then I've told a load of people. So. But that was them being smart and using it properly. So I had a quick question for you, Toby, which was, is there an expiry date on medals?
Yes and no. So it's going to be another useless comment. Yes, unfortunately, we know that even the biggest production is distillation. So even if you're running your continuously making the nicest, cleanest vodka made in billions of liters, it's still going to change, you know, in 10, 15 years time. So I think it's fair to say that it's good to commemorate and remember when you know, like the guys here, Hernö, you know, one of the top distilleries in Scandinavia, and it's still, you know, 10 years ago, that was still big, but probably you moved on with the production method, and probably it's even better. So, you know, God bless, that's happy days. But it has an expiry date, but I don't think it's just by year. It has a little bit more longevity, and sometimes I tell people maybe to fluctuate which award they enter. If they don't have all the money, don't always go just for one award. Maybe just try it around, because then that could help to spread the love a little bit, I think.
I know, I don't know if I know, because they've recently changed their bottle, but a very established gin distillery that's been going for more than 100 years, at least until recently, had like some really old, when I say really old, I mean like from like the 1920 World's Fair or something.
Oh, like I love those as history
on the bottle, and I'm like, I would love to have been like seeing what was the judging like then, like what was going on when they had these medals. Like, we're going to put them on the bottle, and there's all lots and lots of like different old of these like World Fair things, and I just think
brilliant.
That once it's got to that stage, there's quite a charm to it, I must say. Okay. Question for Eric, and I know Jon will have experienced this. Eric, why are competitions so expensive?
So that's a great question. So the primary answer is they're not inexpensive to operate. Depending on the competition, there are the costs of the venue, costs associated with the judges, costs associated with transportation of the bottles and things of that nature. For ADI judging, our event is held at a single location with all the judges at the same time. We get everybody together and hold the event in a single place so that everything can be done in basically a week's time, roughly. And that takes a lot of coordination and preparation, and we find it useful to do our competition that way. So that creates an expense on our side. Plus then there's the work of producing the awards after the fact, and shipping them out, and things of that nature. Other competitions will, in the COVID times, we've seen more of a shift to virtual sort of judging panels, and which I think we might be talking about a little bit later. That can reduce some costs, but also increase costs in other ways in terms of shipping samples to judges. And so there's just, there's an expense to doing this. Part of the role of a competition, at least I think in a good competition, is to have the samples taste blind without knowing what the product is. And so that requires a certain amount of work to prepare samples. And that work has to be paid for in some way or another. And so that's part of what goes into it.
Yeah. And I think, it does vary from competition to competition, but certainly, and people say, oh, you judge spirits competitions, must be the best job ever. And that is fantastic. I can't deny it. But it is hard work. And a lot of the people that are judging, some of them might be employed by someone else, but a lot of them are independent individuals, such as, well, a lot of us here. So, a day out judging is a day not working in that respect. And it is interesting that some competitions pay their judges and other ones don't. So, that's a very interesting thing when you, as part of the dynamic. And I think generally you can get a sense of the ones that are paid and the ones that aren't because of the quality of the judges. And really, the judges, a competition should have who the judges are on their website. You should have an appreciation, particularly if you're paying, if you've got to pay to enter and pay to ship bottles and everything. You should have an idea of who those people are, and you'll get an idea whether they're getting paid or not. If Toby's on there, they're probably getting paid because he won't do it otherwise.
Oh, come on.
Well, his time's very valuable, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, no, one point I want to make though, for producers to understand, for competitions, even the competitions that pay their judges, if they were paying a fair market value for those people's time, competitions would be even more expensive.
Much worth, absolutely.
Yeah, so the fact is that most competitions, I'll say this, all competitions that pay their judges are paying an under market value for their time. And partly it's because, the logistics or the costs associated with running a competition would be, unattainable or out of step. We would be talking about, $800, $1,000 entry fees for competitions if for a single product, if we were actually paying judges their fair market value. So judges are, in a lot of ways contributing to these events by volunteering or donating a portion of the value of their time so these events can operate at a reduced cost for the participants, which I think is something that largely isn't talked about or understood by the entrants.
Yeah, and I think that's nice when judges feel valued, and I know the judges at the ADI definitely feel valued because it is a rip-roaring time every day. I mean, that's the nice thing about having everyone together, is it's quite a social thing, and it's lovely to see what are the new things that are going on and everything. Lovely. Well, thank you. Great answer. I know, tricky question, but that's me. So you touched on it, Eric. Coronavirus, right? It's had impacts. Veronica, you've done a few different competitions that you had done previously, and that you've also done. Things have changed. So how is it as a judge? How have things changed for you?
It has, absolutely. It changed a lot. So I think there is two aspects. First one, as we already touched, it's an occasion, not just for the entrants, people that enter their product, but also for the judges. So every year, we get together, it's a process. And then I think there is as much as I love how everything moved virtually, and we all managed to sustain all the judgings and competitions, it is very difficult because every single competition is different. So some of them you have to pre-taste, some of them you have to make notes, send them up front, some of them it's just kind of like a panel. But it is very different when you sit in one room and you can actually have the conversation. And a lot of times I'm sure you will agree, you can adjust your scores, because that's what is it about. Consulting, thinking
through the
okay,
discussion, yeah.
Yes. So I think that would be the first point of, the different point of view because of the coronavirus and the situation. So, not just that social aspect and consulting and, retasting almost, and just discussing.
And I think, just to sort of add to your point, essentially what's happened with almost all competitions is that they've switched to a sample system. So they've been filling small bottles and sending them up. I think last year the only one I did that was in person was the IWSC, and I think they had their own location, they had their own it was the summer, so that was quite convenient as well, and it was small groups, but we did have those weird pull-up lines between us all and all that kind of thing. Only so many people together. I know Toby was there for a good chunk of it, and we judged 6 days a week, didn't we? So we made our way through it, for sure.
Oh, that was long. But also, if you think about that, because I'm totally with Veronica. I really like, we like to see people. I fly to see. Sometimes I try. Usually, it never happens because of weather. Try to see Eric. Go to lovely places and judge together, and it's really, really nice because the interaction is different. But to be honest, with the IWSC, it was really good fun to be together. But when you have 4 people instead of 7 on the panel, that could be a bit harder. It could be a bit harder. So it always gets to the kind of point that how many people, is it better to have 7 virtually or 4 in real life or 3 in real life, or what's happening? So it's a good question, and I would love to see that, more opening up and more vaccination, that sort of stuff happening. But right now it's quite exciting to see what's going to happen this summer, for instance.
I think if they're all quality people, like everyone that's here, then I think you can easily have 4, and you're usually quite in the groove with each other anyway in terms of the scoring, which is quite nice. Eric, did you have anything to add to this? I know you are the competition is now open. Entries are open for the ADI.
ADI's judging registration is open. Our early bird pricing will be ending in April. And for us,
just quickly, sorry. When does the international bit close?
So for international spirits that are not yet imported into the US, they need to apply for something called a COLA waiver, and that application ends March 28th. So pretty quick. Yeah. So registration can happen after that, but you got to get that piece of paperwork in the pipeline before that. So yeah, the big thing for us, it's our hope that when we run our competition in June, that we will be able to have people together in, socially distanced and, in sort of various ways, in part like what IWSC was able to accomplish last summer. But if that's not possible, then we're going to have to move to a sample process, probably, like others have done, like World Gin Awards and Whiskeys of the World. Other competitions like that. A lot of how the logistics of it run, I think, is kind of dependent on the competition, on who the panel chairs are, and things like that. And I've had experiences where a virtual panel ran very smoothly, and others where they didn't. And so it's partly personalities, and that's also true of in-person groups. I think personally, like in-person competitions are more engaging for the judge, so we'll see what happens, but it has impacted, I think, the way certain competitions approach things. In the US, I'll just say we have a challenge in that we have 4 time zones that we have to contend with, and so it makes the logistics of who's on what panel a little bit more challenging. Whereas if all your judges are in the UK, then it's a little bit simpler to coordinate things. So that's the only other additional factor that we have.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're at our time, I'm afraid, but thank you everyone for being here. We'll just have a few sort of closing thoughts or remarks that you've if you've not made it yet. So Bernie, we'll start with you.
I'd probably suggest that, you know, if you are going to enter a competition, do your research, speak to professionals about, you know, what ones you should be entering. Make sure you do it properly and make the most of it. The people that judge, you know, we put a lot of time and effort into doing it properly and delivering, you know, fair scores and, you know, valuable feedback. So it's a good resource for you. So it's something you really should make the most of, I think.
Veronica.
Well, we probably already mentioned it, but you know, if you're unsure, that, you know, you have people like Toby, you know, to advise you on what competitions to enter, because, you know, there is a lot of competitions and not every competition suits every product. So definitely do your research, and, you know, I think ask yourself a question: what do you want to get from it? What do you want to achieve by getting a medal or entering the competition? So that's the most important thing to consider before you enter.
Where's your focus as well? You know, if you're national, maybe enter some national competitions, maybe one international one, but have more of a focus, I guess, as well. Jon, final thoughts?
Well, also important is and what I'm longing for is, you know, meeting the judges, meeting the participants and colleagues at the awards after the competition is done. That's also an important part for, as a producer and as a participator in the competition, and that's something I'm really longing for, and hopefully we'll be able to do this autumn. Yes,
we've had some. It's always great fun. Eric.
Yeah, I think Bernadette and Veronica are right. Due diligence, look into, you know, what's your focus, really know what that is before you enter. And if you have questions and you want more information, reach out. If a competition won't return your phone call or email, then, you know, maybe you shouldn't spend your money with them. But, you know, I'm always available to answer people's questions. You know, things like typicality, like if you're on the fence, like what category should it go into? Give me a call, email me, and I'll talk to you about that. You know, so if a competition isn't available for answering your questions, then, you know, why spend your money with them?
And Toby.
And also, you all said the most important bit, but I just want to say it again. That's really important to have a little bit more strategy to it, not just, let's say, we have the money to chuck it. Brilliant, of good to this and that competition. I think you can do it much better with national strategies, international strategies. Look out what sort of market you like, or even sometimes for a niche brand. I always said, why don't we enter a couple of one Asian, one African competition, one in the US, because that would make a tiny small brand look like worldwide and worldwide appreciated. And also, if you want to enter the market, then you can also say that, hello, we just won a gold here, so what's happening? You might be able to do that. And the other thing is just to be ready and have the strategy how to use your medal. I quite like that when people just won because they won't believe that they're going to have a double gold or platinum. We're like, what shall we do now? Like, let's think about what will we doing, and if we don't win it, then no problem. But just be ready. Quite like that.
Brilliant.
Good to see you guys.
I want to thank everybody, all my great panelists. Just real high-end class acts that we've had here, like people, real experts. Just beautiful to have them here. Thank you everybody for watching. This is a little prelude to the Crafty Distilling Conference, which is going to be, the live section will be 21st, 22nd and 23rd of April 2021. We will be doing a live Q&A session covering these topics as well. There'll be the chance for you to have your answer your questions, have your questions answered, I should say. And I'll put a link in the comments for this video as to exactly when that time would be. But until then, once again, thanks to the panel, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.